there's this quote in the movie the quote is just "Time is luck," which you can geek out about it, but time is luck, and I really started thinking about that in the context of all of this, and I've been thinking a lot about just like time and whatever, but time is luck, like every bit, like you don't take the time you have to do anything for granted. Time is luck. Like luck is, what is luck, right? Go to a casino, put it on black, spin the wheel.
Yeah.
And the idea of time is luck. Like you could, I always like to think that you could get in the car and, something tragic could happen. Something tragic could happen right here.
You're setting me up here, buddy. Like so perfectly.
Well, this is unplanned, but time is luck.
You literally could not set this up for me any better.
It's just the perfect. It's just this way of looking at things. Like if you're doing what others expect versus what you want to do, like just think about that. Time is absolutely not guaranteed, and every bit of it you get is just complete. This was not planned, by the way.
Not
so Matt, let me preface this. Matt,
for our listeners,
Matt brings this thing,
kind of gross,
this car part, which I don't even know what it is, into. He brings it into the studio and just sets it down on the table. And I'm like, what is that? Like, is this like a lens housing? Like, what are we doing with here?
For people listening, this is like a 2-pound hunk of metal. It's a cylinder, and it has like one half looks kind of like a steel pipe. The bottom half looks like a gear would meet up with it to spin it. Inside, there's some gears in there.
So he brings this in and just sets it down. And I have no idea what it means. I still don't know what it means. So,
and what's beautiful, what's kind of fascinating about you bringing up the time is luck thing from, Michael Mann's director's cut of Miami Vice. I didn't really know how to tell this story or bring this up. And I thought, well, maybe we'll do a standalone episode because I did have something to kind of posit or talk about or ask you about after, telling the story. But
we might break that off then into a different,
possibly. Yeah. But the time is luck thing is certainly one of the takeaways from what this object represents and the story around it. So I'll tell the story. What day is today? Sunday. This was Friday. So Friday, I get done listening to an episode of Tetragrammaton. Not going to go down that path, but the episode inspired me to just like get outside. I spend most of the week inside at my computer, and the episode, it's a whole thing, but we'll put it in the show notes. It's with Dr. Jack Kruse and Andrew Huberman, and he talks about the role that light plays in human health.
Yeah, you're just like, man, I need some light.
So I was very inspired. I'm like, I'm going to go outside, and I'm just going to. So I'm like, what? It wasn't like a question of what I'm going to do, because for my photography YouTube channel, I go out with these different digital cameras and sometimes film cameras, and photograph different parts of Omaha or different places I travel to, and kind of just get lost in the flow and zone out and take these photos. So I decided this camera that I had, which I have with me, it's a purple Canon Digicam, pretty good value on eBay. And I had bought it off Facebook Marketplace knowing I wanted to make a video with it, but then, sell it for some profit. So it's kind of eating at me. Like I don't want to keep this camera, so I want to get it done, but I also want to make a video with it. So I'm going to go to Midtown Omaha, which is, obviously the sort of the central part of the city between the start of West Omaha and downtown Omaha. It's kind of partly cloudy, a little bit of blue sky. It's a nice day. It's like 52 degrees, all this stuff. So I'm going to go, so I'm just going to go park the truck and walk around for an hour or so. I think I had about 2.5 hours before I had to pick up my daughter. We weren't recording a podcast that day. So I just start going around with this Digicam, and I'm taking photos. I'm walking through parking lots, along the sidewalks. Most of what I'm photographing is an interesting shadow on an old building or a couple skateboarders I asked to take their picture, and they're like, yeah, totally cool. There was a gentleman that, looked like somebody who was, maybe down on his luck. I don't know if he was unhoused or what, but I don't like to take photographs of people that are in like a bad way, whether it's, you know, they don't have a home or they're transient or they're dealing with addiction, substance abuse, whatever. Like, I'm not going to take photos of them and then put it on my YouTube channel and you know, all that stuff. So this guy, I asked him, he was interesting looking, and I said, you know, I'm out taking photographs. Do you mind if I take a photograph of you? And he said, yeah, sure, go right ahead. I took 2 photographs of him, asked him what his name was. His name was Chester, and, you know, he went along his way. So I kept going, and there was a family unloading the back of a truck, and I took a photograph of them. And then there was like a playground in between their building and another building, and light was hitting stuff. I'm taking photographs in there. They're kind of looking at me like, who's this tall white guy, all dressed in black, walking around with a purple digicam taking photographs. So I could kind of tell the wife was like taking pictures of me with her cell phone, and then she was in her window and she was filming me. I don't know if she was just like, who is this guy? Or she was worried she needed to call the police or something. I don't know. But I was in public spaces. I wasn't like walking on people's private property. Keep walking around. And eventually I see this dog running through an intersection by like 24th and Dodge by the Jocelyn Art Museum. And there's a guy chasing after the dog. Has, you know, beige pants on, a gray hoodie, Bulls hat on, glasses, you know, clean cut, white guy. And so I stop and, you know, trying to kind of get the dog to come to me to help him get the dog. Yeah. Well, the dog runs away from me and I just keep walking, and the guy crosses the street. We're on the same side of the street. He's very angry. He jump kicks a bike, like one of those rental bikes. Yeah. Kicks the seat, knocks it sideways, yelling for the dog. His voice is kind of hoarse. And I'm walking behind him going, oh, there's some interesting sort of street drama unfolding here. I'm going to photograph this, you know, while it happens. Take a few photographs from behind. He ends up down in the next intersection. There's a younger woman waiting to cross the street, a young man with his dog. And the dog that's on the loose is kind of interested in the dog that this guy has on a leash. The dog's just kind of going all over the place, and I'm just popping off a few wide shots as it happens. So I cross the street. The woman's trying to lure the dog toward her. I take a picture of her doing that and keep walking. And this guy is still chasing the dog around. So I'm still a photograph here or there, nothing crazy. The gentleman with the dog on the leash crosses the street. He realizes he can use his dog to lure this dog in to recover the dog for the guy. That all happens. I take a photograph of the guy who was chasing the dog. He shook the guy's hand because he was able to recover his dog. And then I start walking away. And I just kind of vaguely felt like the guy that was chasing the dog said something toward me. And I just kind of brushed it off. I, you know, kept walking, and then I turned around and I just kind of saw a shot that I liked. I zoomed in on the camera, took the photo, and then turned up the block and started, you know, continuing on my way. I get to a restaurant, and I see like a shopping cart. There's a shadow. I'm taking some pictures in the parking lot of this restaurant. And then I turn to my right, and the guy that was chasing the dog is charging toward me. Yeah. And I'm like, so my suspicion that he had said something toward me kind of connected. I'm like, he must have said something about being frustrated that I was taking photographs. Yeah. So he's charging toward me, and I'm just standing there, and he goes, hey, give me that camera. And I'm like, no. Yeah. He comes right up next to me. Yeah. Right next to me, and winds up. And, you know, it didn't quite go slow motion, but my brain goes, I see something in his hand. It looks like a steel pipe, like a part of a steel pipe. And then he throws it at my head as hard as he possibly can. Yeah. And in that instant, when his arm starts going toward me, I ducked down, like squatted all the way to the ground. Whatever he threw, which is this object.
This thing is not light either.
Flew over me and hit the building. Yeah. And then, you know, when I recover from ducking, because I squatted to where almost my butt could hit the ground. Yeah. I shot out of my lowered stance toward the sidewalk to assess what he was going to do. Yeah. and he was running toward this thing to get it to come at me again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, he's going to come at me again.
Yeah.
So I run across the street against traffic because the signal wasn't up, and I had to go behind a car, and there's a coffee shop up just across the street called Zen Coffee. Not that that's important.
Yeah.
But my thought is I'm going to go inside a crowded place. Like, this guy's not going to come in after me there, and I'll be safe. And sure enough, he had retrieved the object and threw it back at me. And it hit the parking lot, ground, and bounced off next to me as I went into the coffee shop. And I'm looking out the window, the door, and he's yelling at me from the sidewalk and kind of marching away. And I think to myself, well, I need to disconnect visually from this guy to kind of start communicating to him that I'm not going to be accessible anymore and that he'll like kind of give up and go away.
Yeah.
So I'm in the coffee shop for maybe 90 seconds, and I'm like, I want to get out of here. And I open the other door. There's 2 doors to get in. And I go back up to my truck and get in the truck, and I just kind of sit there like adrenaline, obviously, a little bit out of breath, heart pounding, kind of like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like,
again.
So
I'm like, this thing probably weighs like 5.
I weighed it. It's just over 2 pounds.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it feels heavier than it actually is because of the I don't know how substantial it is. So I'm sitting in the truck, kind of get my breath, get my bearings. Like, what do I need to do next? Like, is this a thing? Like, do I need to call the police? Should I call 911? What did this guy actually try to do to me? I'm like, well, first off, I want to go get what he threw at me so I can understand, like, maybe if I know what it was he threw, I'll have a better idea of what his intention was.
Yeah.
And so I go back to the parking lot, and obviously I'm paying attention, like, to see if this guy's still around, like, waiting for me. And I'm probably 10 minutes had gone by, and I'm searching through like the landscaping that's on the edge of the building, and I find this hunk of metal. I'm like, holy shit, like this guy stood right next to me.
Oh, I mean, this would have killed you.
And he tried to throw this thing at my head.
Yeah.
Like he tried to, like, I mean, like this thing would have crushed my skull. It would have knocked me out cold. Who knows what he would have done to me had I been on the ground, head bleeding.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.